if other local currencies even are on the XRP ledger for stability and liquidity provision, then wouldn't the price have to be significantly higher for it to do what it needs to do? I remember I took one job once in my life when I was about 16 years old, and I quit the very same day. I have documents right now actually from Swift partnering with Ripple, integrating the technology. They sued them because this is a disruptor.
Welcome to the Crypto Geek channel. Today we're speaking with Versan, Aljarrah, also known as Black Swan Capitalist, known for his in-depth crypto research in both the generalized economic space and even XRP. So, welcome Versan. How are you doing today?
How are you
How
guys?
are you?
Thank you very much. I'm doing great.
That's
Happy to be
fantastic.
on.
Yeah, well, it's been two crazy weeks. Absolutely crazy. Crypto markets have skyrocketed. We've seen Trump officially elected president. No tariffs, 0% income tax thrown all over the place. What's your thoughts on the last 2 weeks?
Well, first of all, no taxes, no income tax, any of that. You actually believe that shit? I'm just
I
kidding.
mean,
People can say things, especially when it comes to political candidates. They'll say anything they can to earn your trust. There's a book I read. It was very interesting. A friend of mine, former MI6 military intelligence from the Val Hill community guys, he gave me a book called The Trap, and it was written by David Icke. Are you guys familiar with David Icke?
oh, so
Okay,
actually,
David Icke, he's the British guy who's been warning about a lot of the central bank plans. And anyways, guys, the book is called The Trap. Now, you're not going to believe what it does. I read the whole book and I contacted my friend. Like I told him, you guys are not going to believe what I figured from this book. The book tells you nothing but facts and truth about the world we live in, the reality, right? When you get to the end of the book, there's a trap in there. So he tries to earn your trust. He does earn it throughout the book. But as you get to the end, he tries to deceive you. And you have to be really clever and had to understand what the book was about. And if you figured out the language and interpreted it the right way, when you get to the end, you catch the trap before he tries to snare you in it. My point, though, is that politicians will say anything they want to buy and earn trust from people. And that's exactly what has happened here today. And listen, I know Trump is for a lot of positive things that he said, things he's done, but over the last 48 hours, and people keep saying it's not confirmed, it's not confirmed. He's already appointed many officials to his administration who are on the other side. And within this truther community, I think they're buying into another trap again. Now, it's very his presidency is going to be very positive in the short term for the economy. Why? And it's because they're going to go back to what they've always been doing, printing money. They lowered interest rates only like a month ago, right before he was already predetermined to be president. I was calling this months ago that he was going to be president because the markets were already pricing in a Trump victory. That's not an accident. They knew that he was going to win. And also, if you look at the facts, the American people actually voted for Trump. So the markets were already pricing Trump in. Nonetheless, they have to print money because we're still on a debt-based system where we print money, issue debt, and that printing of money devalues the currency, which means we have to lower interest rates even more. So I'm already speculating, healthy speculation, that we're going to go back to something close to zero interest rates so they can continue to print more money. And as they're printing more money, they're devaluing the currency and they're buying up, again, assets people cannot afford to hold on to because you have to sell those assets because inflation, it costs more to buy goods and services. And that's because of devaluation of currency. So whether Trump was in office or not, they're going to have to do the same thing either way, was what I'm trying to say. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Many people, I had a friend the other day, I discussed this with him thoroughly. He's like, dude, my portfolio has doubled. By the way, my portfolio has tripled, actually. And his portfolio doubled. And he's like, Versan, why are you complaining about the economy? And I was talking about the debt market and some other things. And he said, why are you complaining about this? And I said, dude, don't you understand? I said, that's exactly the problem. Your portfolio doubled. And he didn't understand what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is that just because your portfolio goes up because of the printing of money and the buying of debt, which is propping up the currency, which is propping up the stock market, which is propping up the crypto markets as well. Not to mention Tether just issued what, 5 billion tokens? Every time Tether shoots up new currency, Bitcoin goes up artificially. It's all artificial, guys. I don't believe in technical analysis. There are 4-year cycles that play it alongside with the 4-year presidential selection, the debt restructuring of central banks, the Bitcoin halving. This is not an accident. This was all by design. So my point, though, is that the fact that Trump is in office, you're going to see markets go up, which they already have significantly actually in the last few days. However, there's a trade-off for this. You're going to eventually pay for all of this with very high inflation. So I even talked about this recently that 2025, there are some very positive things about regulation in the crypto space. He's going to let this thing blow up. He really is. So that's very positive for people like us. But that's why you want to be in the right place at the right time and have an exit strategy. But at the same time, it's going to cost a lot of money to the American people because right now we're still, again, on the debt-based system. We got to print all this money and issue it. It's all fake, man. And nobody sees through it. So when they're smiling about their portfolio doubling, was my point. They don't take in the account of inflation and what that means for purchasing power. So your portfolio doubles, but inflation levels out. So when you're exiting, you're right back where you started.
Makes sense. Now, the thing is it possible for 0% income tax? Is it even feasible? Because he did say, I read, he wants to 100% tax countries moving away from the US dollar.
Oh, you mean tariffs on other nations that are
he wants the 100%
importing
tariff.
things.
Yes. So that
well, listen, guys, if he puts tariffs on other nations like China, and he already said he would, and I think that's actually what's going to happen. He's going to put tariffs on all these countries. The American people are going to think like, hey, we're getting a better deal. Actually, we're not, because the problem is since World War II, we haven't really produced anything. America produces a lot of propaganda. We produce weapons and manufacturing. So it's a war-based economy. It really is, guys. So we don't produce anything, and that's a big problem in America. So when he talks about bringing jobs back here, I see that as a positive, but that's going to take a while. If you start putting tariffs on all these countries, guess what? You're going to start seeing very expensive prices for goods and services from things you buy from China, which is practically everything. This jacket was probably made in China. I paid like $52 for this, but hey, if it puts tariffs on China, I'm going to be paying $120 for this. I'm not kidding. So again, people don't understand how economics works. And you start putting tariffs on all these countries. Hey, it looks good in the short term. The American people will buy anything at this point. That's very clear. And it's going to just cost them more money. And they're not pricing that into their analysis. And I think that's a big hiccup. You're making a big mistake there. When you're looking and speculating about the markets and the future of them, you got to look at pretty much how the dominoes start to fall when you start implementing tariffs, when you start taking money away from here and putting it over here. There are a lot of consequences for all of this.
What are your takes on kind of selling oil? Because I know Trump said we're going to sell our oil because I think U.S. has one of the largest oil fields, oil reserves. He wants to sell oil and gas. And I think that was his take on trying to make zero income tax. Now, I think me and you understand that zero income tax, even me, that it's not feasible. It's almost impossible to have 0% income tax. And this is one thing that I do like about Trump. It's the element of him shooting for the sky, really. And then, if somebody shoots and says we're gonna drop income tax by 2%, 5%, then if he reaches 2%, he can say we're halfway there, rather than saying, okay, 0%, we dropped it 10, 20% down. Shoot for the sky, and if you make even halfway, it's better than the guy that was shooting for nothing.
Well, talk is cheap. We got to see action. And let me tell you something. When he was president last time, we all made good money. The economy was good. The job market was good. But he gave a lot of power to the central banks as well. This time, when they say end the Fed, I think that's a very positive thing. But the truth is, like, the Federal Reserve was designed to collapse under the weight of its own debt anyways. So that's not really a new concept. Taxes, they're all illegal because, again, we're taxing people on something that is manufactured by a private entity called a central bank, which is unconstitutional to begin with. See, America lost its freedom in 1913. I love history because you
Uh,
could actually go back in history and read this stuff and look at what has transpired, where we are today, and where this is all going now with digital infrastructure, digital technologies. And just to clarify for everybody, do you know what the whole game is for the digital transformation revolution? Yeah, sure, it's about unifying currencies. It's about stabilizing everything under distributed ledger protocols. But more importantly, this is about digital IDs and taxation, being able to tax people whenever the hell they want. And that's really what it comes down to. And to survey everything you're buying because they don't want you to own assets like gold and silver. And that's can I get off topic for a bit? And I'm really good at this, getting off topic, but it all kind of ties in together. So, um, okay. Did you see what happened with Bitcoin when it was soaring? By the way, which it only soared because Tether issued all this, artificial money, right? The
yeah, new money. Yeah.
USDT. And by the way, there's a lot of instability there. We'll get into that in a little bit. But when Bitcoin was shooting up, what happened to gold? I saw blockchain backer. He posted something. And I honestly, I love what he does, but I don't think it was good information to tell the people when you say, what do you notice? Gold was coming down. But what's interesting is that while gold was coming down because of Bitcoin surge, what the hell happened? Central banks all over the world were actually buying gold on the gas. They pressed on it.
Wow.
It's almost like that they needed to artificially inflate Bitcoin in order to bring the gold price down so they can continue to buy gold at a cheaper price because it was leaving up. What people don't realize is what's happening to gold right now. And that's why more central banks in the East are buying gold compared to the West. It's because they're shifting the price controls from from the West to the East, which is why gold is moving fast. I think it's going to get to a point where there's no like tap on it, right? The West is known for manipulating the precious metals market so they can keep issuing debt. It's kind of funny. It's like a revolving door, but things are really changing. The geopolitical shift is moving towards the East. They're accelerating AI, regulation on digital assets, infrastructure, money, politics. Everything is changing. The new world order is being led by the BRICS nations. It's very interesting. So all of this ties back into like what's going on here in the US. And I know it's a little complex, man. I don't think that everyday person can comprehend such a complex strategy that's being implemented in real time. And you have all these distractions and all this hype around certain things, including crypto. So it's just there's so much going on at the same time, man. But
For sure.
yeah, I
It's
don't even know where I was going with this.
it
So
is you know what it is crazy because the normal retailers investing and trying to make some money, but we heard Donald Trump announce this was before he was elected, but he said we could launch a token and give it to China, and that's how we plan to pay off our debt.
that's
$36
very
trillion
interesting.
in debt.
That's very interesting. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if, and I think that's something to do with the strategic reserve they were talking about. Did you guys see that?
Yes, so that I read into the details. Basically, the plan was over 5 years they want to buy $68 billion worth of Bitcoin,
Hmm.
which
Interesting.
is massive. Do you think and this was actually something we were analyzing is, is it possible that the US just builds this token and gives it, maybe it doesn't have any liquidity so that China can't sell, but they just send them this token worth $36 trillion, and that's how they repay China's debt.
Who knows? It's very possible. Um, it's a good thing to ask. Debt jubilee. They keep calling it the Nasara Jasara guys. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, yes,
They keep
yes.
saying a debt jubilee. Two things. Number one, um, it's important to always raise the critical question, like someone's debt is somebody else's asset. So who's benefiting from this debt jubilee? That's one. I think it's an important question they haven't asked. They'll say the Chinese elders. Well, it's actually the Chinese who are trying to enforce a communist regime upon us. And people will deny it, of course, but that's because they haven't seen it for themselves or researched it, I think, thoroughly enough. The other thing is, if we're going to actually pay off the debt, who knows? It's very possible that Bitcoin could be considered as a strategic reserve to pay off that debt because 90% of Bitcoin's in artificially inflated supply is because of a very criminalized activity between the US government, whatever Tether is doing, and they've been involved in some very nefarious stuff. So it's very possible they're going to pump this thing up just to give it to China. Who knows, right? And guess what? All the nefarious money is used to pay off a debt. Who knows, right? But yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I really am not the right person maybe to answer those questions because I'm just speculating at this
Yeah.
point. But
I
I'll tell
mean,
you one thing.
everything's speculation right now. I think with the
Healthy
markets,
speculation is
yeah,
important for sure. But when you're talking about like paying off the debt, that's a very
yes, yes.
interesting thing. I had Martin Armstrong on the show once, and we talked for 3.5 hours. I got only to show people what an hour and a half of that conversation was like. But I really got to know this guy. He's very insightful. And I asked him very detailed, like, hey, what happens if they just reevaluate the gold price, put a digital infrastructure there to kind of represent it in a digital format? Would we be able to pay off the debt like that? And he said, no. Now, I'm not sure if he's accurate on that, to be honest, because a lot of these, old timers, right? They're not as up to date as some of us are in the space where, I mean, I'm doing this 24/7, guys, asking these questions, researching. So it really raises the question, like, how are we going to pay off the debt? I really do believe that if you set the gold price high enough, and kind of factor in all the debt, the derivatives, pretty much all the leverage in the system, and you have a digital representation for it, XRP or something like that. That's always what I believed when I was, first getting into the space. It was kind of clear to me at one point. But it's funny, every time I feel like I'm getting closer to the truth, there's all this noise that tries to like set me back. You know what I mean? Can
Yeah,
you guys agree on that part?
I can definitely agree, and we're seeing it. It's happening in real time. It's true. Every time you get closer and closer to the answer, it's like you get this massive other news outside of it, and now all eyes are on that.
Well, I mean, I'll never believe anyone that says that, look, Bloomberg is saying Bitcoin is like a new strategic reserve. I don't care what Bloomberg is saying. Since when did they have your interests? Since when did BlackRock ever give a crap about you? Since when did any of these presidents and institutions really care about people? No, they don't. This is a self-interest. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't believe in the narratives that they sell. They'll put like articles from Bloomberg and I'll try to like break it down and misinterpret it the way I see things based on what I already know. And it's weird. There are a lot of things that have been said in the past that have not come to fruition, but things we've said in the past when we were called wrong that have come into fruition. So my question is to everybody else, are we actually following their narrative, or is it important maybe for us to take their narrative, deconstruct it, brainstorm a bit, have discussions like this and figure out what the hell they're really trying to do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like it reminds me. It's like Jim Cramer, CNBC. Every time he says something, the markets go the opposite way around.
Yeah. And
Bitcoin's
I
gonna
guess
go
what?
up.
It would be funny if they figured out that people figured out their strategy and they reversed it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It would be
and
funny.
yeah, I know, and I think this is it's starting to happen. I think, and the fact that people are realizing, some people are realizing.
It's like we're waking up from one dream and somebody's throwing something else at us,
Yeah, I know for sure. It
Yeah.
is crazy, and this is kind of cool in terms of the Trump. I guess the Trump government body. He's planning to create a lot of new boards. Like I don't know if you read, he's trying to he's going to create the crypto board, crypto policies. He's going to
Mhm.
create. Elon Musk said he's going to create the DOG, the Dodge
Yep.
board.
Well, I
Uh,
think I think the most important thing that he mentioned, and I posted it on X today, the devil's in the detail, man. But I think the real shift in what's beneficial for the United States is the stable coins. That's really where the real challenge lies in the United States. I mean, given its status, the dollar as a reserve currency, if Trump's plan, I also tweeted about this today, but if his plan is to like save, revive the dollar, so forth, then he's going to need to have these stable coins. And I believe based on what has already transpired that RLUSD is really the key to all of this, right? It plays a big role here, and I don't think it's widely discussed enough. I mean, people on the X community for sure are tackling this, and I think it's good. But that's why they're working closely with the central banks, Ripple, the Treasury Department too. I wrote an article about this the other day. The strategy is basically to I'm sorry, I got distracted. Collapse in some way, form, or fashion, take power away from the central banks while they still get to evolve, but giving more of the power back to the Treasury Department, which basically allows the Treasury Department to manage all the liquidity provision through the banks, through the central banks or the banks directly, and the banks that have the relationship with the consumers, you and I. So
I
what
mean,
I'm
are the
trying to say,
central
though,
banks
it's
going to
going to
accept?
go ahead.
Are the central banks going to accept crypto? You think? I mean, I was in Dubai. This was a couple months ago, and even in Dubai, one of the most crypto-friendly places. Everybody wants to go to Dubai because it's crypto-friendly.
Yeah.
Even there, their banks don't accept crypto, and actually, it's like a no-go zone. They tell you there's these crypto exchanges. You can use these crypto exchanges. You can sell your crypto there, but don't let the bank because the bank won't
Well,
accept it.
yeah, well, like I said, I didn't say this here today, but well, I did actually. Yeah, talk is cheap. You'll see a lot of headlines and news about this stuff. 90% of the crypto space is all hype. And this is why I keep saying it will be at a time of their choosing. And many people in the space are like, what the hell are you talking about? Specifically the Nasara Chisara guys. They're like, what the hell are you talking about, Versan? This was designed to free the world. I don't really agree with that. I think you have some purview outside the central bank level when you own the technology. It's very possible. That's what Lynette Zhang told us. That's why it's in the central bank money, flower BIS, which is the central bank of central banks globally. Typically, banks are not accepting this stuff because it's kind of circumventing their protocols, and they don't want that. You're basically beating the machine. So I keep saying it's going to be at a time of their choosing because this is a decision being made at the institutional level, not the retail level. XRP, to be honest, guys, was not for retail. It was for institutions. You are like a central bank. You are the liquidity provider, buyer and lender of last resort, and so forth. It's designed for banks and institutions to move trillions and trillions of dollars at a time between each other. XLM, on the other hand, which is very interesting, was more designed for peer-to-peer transactions. Um, and I think this new system is going to be a dual currency system. The BIS has openly talked about this in many ways. You got to interpret the language. I've read the documents. I'll send them to you guys. New documents that just were released on May 2024. You had to have a subscription with the Bank for International Settlements. I didn't have one, so I got it from somebody who has a subscription with them. Do you guys remember Rick Rule? So him and I are
Yes.
still in contact. But there are new developments that show about a two-tier monetary system. One for central banks, it's like called wholesale CBDC, and then you have the retail CBDC. And listen, guys, I know central bank digital currency, the terminology has a very bad connotation to it, but you could call it whatever the hell you want. It's still a digital currency. RLUSD is a digital currency. It's a digital dollar. It's a tokenized version of a fiat dollar. That's a central bank digital currency because it's a digital currency issued by the central bank. So I'm just saying they put a lot of terminology in here to complicate things, to make it harder for you and I to understand what they're trying to do, what they're trying to say, when really it's really that simple. Um, the whole digital thing is about accelerating digitization of infrastructure, digital IDs, taxation, being able to consolidate power. And that's what I still believe, despite what anyone thinks of, you know.
I think I don't know what your take on this, but I think CBDCs are not too bad of a thing. I mean, I'm
They're not
pro
what?
crypto regulation, and not too bad. I mean, I'm pro crypto regulation, and I believe that in terms of the only way cryptocurrency can get its real adoption to be accepted is through it being regulated and is through some
That's
sort of
correct.
government.
That's correct. Spot on.
But we're
Yeah.
seeing, but what we are seeing is you're right. Like people said, a lot of people there's a very bad connotation when people look at CBDCs. It's almost like a negative thing. Even Trump himself, when he came out and said, we're going to make sure that there's no central bank digital currency, everybody's excited. But in
They
my
don't get
mind,
it.
it's restricting that adoption.
They don't get it. They really don't. Um, I've met so many people in the crypto space, and um, I'm happy to say this, but privately, Vindel and I will be sitting, and even Andy Schectman, him and I are very close now. We talk a lot, um, and we'll be like, these people don't get it. They really don't. So yeah, it's not going to happen without the regulations in place. But this is why I think 2025 is going to be a very interesting year. Hence Trump's being president. He's there to accelerate all of this, which is going to be very positive for investors like us in the crypto space. I mean, I made good money in the last few days. I already cashed out, by the way, guys. Why I'm saying this is I always tell people, even on my podcast, you got to be in and out, in and out. Take profits when you can because inflation's not going to stop. In fact, it's going to accelerate and get worse. There always will be pullbacks in the market. And what do you do with that money? You need to get into physical assets that you still have your anonymity. And I think that's the trade-off here. What they're going to do is make everybody feel like a millionaire as things continue to get worse, or better, whatever. You're going to feel richer, but you're not going to be richer. The rich will get richer because they can afford to at these higher prices. And that's how the game has always worked. Now, as far as the digital money, that's not going to be accepted until they are ready. Like I said, time of their choosing. And so funny, I was getting so many attacks by people in my own community about Versan, you don't get it. The deep state has been thrown apart. Yeah. I've heard all that nonsense. Okay. I've talked to people off records who have far more information than these guys. And they have told me it's all nonsense. They have told me this. And I was like, I know. So I find that to be very interesting too. This is not going to happen until they're ready. It's very simple. It really is. And all you need to do is continue to prepare, focus on what's important. I like to focus on making money while my money is growing and working for me because these financial technologies, no doubt, the greatest wealth transfer in human history from governments to a new system. You're welcome to participate. Most people are not. And that's why I believe even a CBDC is inevitable. The fact that the majority of the population are not listening to podcasts like this, they're not doing research like we are in this community. They'd have no freaking idea what's going on. Believe me, I shake hands with these people all the time, and talk to people. So they're uninformed. On that notion, there's no doubt there's going to be a CBDC because the new system is digital and it requires you to have a digital ID to participate in the economy, buying food, whether you're paying your taxes and you have to pay your taxes unless he removes that. Who knows, guys? But there's a lot of changes coming. Not to mention the geopolitical landscape. I don't care what they're saying. There's a lot of tension still. Trump is here to accelerate all of this and create a unified payment system at the same time. One world order. That's the end game. It always has been. I mean, look who he's appointing to his cabinet already. And I got to be careful what I'm saying. The very same people who've been trying to steal our freedom forever. And the American people bought the bait again because they want to believe that things are going to change. It's very possible he might have said things to, open up to people to earn their trust within the establishment. You know what I'm talking about? Get to where he needs to get to, basically fire them or them, whatever, right? But I don't care about words, brother. I care about actions. They're always saying one thing, but every damn day something else is being done and nobody wants to acknowledge it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Like I said, there's a paradox. People don't like to talk about the truth. They only want to talk about the truth that they've sold them to themselves as truth, or that they've sold to others or convinced themselves as truth, or a truth that fits their belief. That's exactly what's happening.
And you know what? What you saying that reminded me. There was a saying, I think it came out of the World Banks, and it was somebody from there said, "You will own nothing and be happy." And instantly when I heard that, it reminded me of kind of the digital money that right now they're selling you. I mean, I'm pro crypto, but then there's some part of me that's like we're seeing a lot of people rather than shifting money towards, like you said, real assets, like a house, something physical, gold. They're shifting it into some crypto that's going to be useless. That's just a value. It's hyperinflated substantially.
Yes.
And they don't comprehend even there's an element of there's something called liquidity within crypto. You probably know this. Basically, it could say you own $1 million. Like I could theoretically have a billion, a gazillion dollars, but when I go and try to sell it, I can't sell it. It's worth zero. Yep. So they're selling you this fake reality of you're a millionaire you have 100 million sitting because you own this token, but when you go to actually cash out your millions to actually utilize it, suddenly you're not a millionaire no more. You're in the real world. So this is the
Spot on.
shift, and I like you said, and this is what we are seeing right now. Nothing's accepted formally yet, but you are being sold the dream of being accepted, of being that multimillionaire, of having that complete success.
Yeah.
But you don't really have it now. And this
Yeah.
kind of gets me onto the crypto markets right now. Bitcoin all-time high. Ethereum almost everything is skyrocketing. Is this institutional adoption or is it hype? Because I did look into, I think Marco Saylor is up $2 billion. Uh, Most of the institutions that had bought early on, El Salvador as well, I think they're up 600 million or 200 million. Is it
So
institutions adopting, buying in?
institutions are going this direction anyways. So digital infrastructure, all of this blockchain, it really kind of kills the friction between payments and kind of cuts out the middlemen. So this is the direction anyways towards a unified system. So I would say there is the adoption of the technology, but don't forget, Bitcoin has been adopted by Wall Street, and Wall Street is all about profits. They only care about money. So certainly there is institutional adoption. Do I think it's the right kind of adoption to where this is all going? No, I think they're profiting on the ignorance of most investors. I'm not saying it's a rug pull at the moment, but the Ponzi scheme has gone too big. The bubble has gone too big for anybody to notice. And they're going to profit on this for sure. So institutional adoption is there, but it's not the end game. The end game is really XRP. And this is why I always talk about it. I want to also clarify, I'm not an influencer. I actually do teach the markets, the economy, how it really functions, the mechanisms behind it. But I always talk about XRP because every digital trace to where this is going always goes back to Ripple, and Ripple uses XRP to move value. And that's why I always talk about it. So again, institutional adoption is there. Everyone's profiting. You're welcome to profit. I tell people have a diversified portfolio. I already pulled my profits out from some of these cryptos that shot up. And I'm getting into other assets that are still undervalued, like SHX and Velo. These things have real use cases where this is going too. But what you were saying as far as like selling a dream to the people, that is there, no doubt. And of course, the majority of the population, especially in the crypto community, I've had people tell me how stupid it is to own gold if it's going to be tokenized. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, actually,
Crazy.
because the fact that everything's being tokenized in digital infrastructure, sure, I would say have some of the digital infrastructure that is building the infrastructure for that tokenized asset, real world assets. But at the same time, I'm telling you, it's going to increase the value significantly of owning physical gold or physical silver because there's less of it. And if everything's being tokenized, you have no anonymity. And this is all I care about is anonymity. And I don't need it right now. I'm not doing anything nefarious or illegal, but who knows what might happen later. And I want to be able to circumvent anything if I need to. So I always cash out. That's why I cashed out recently. Gold came back down. I didn't want to spend the money on gold. So I bought a bunch of silver coins. You see what I mean? So that's working in my favor. And I've been doing this for years, guys. So I know what I'm doing. It's working for me. I'm getting richer, really richer, not just artificially through, crypto and stuff. I'm getting richer with physical assets too. I was telling people to buy gold at 1,500. This is before my YouTube channel. I had my Instagram account only. And I was always telling my friends, go buy gold, guys. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And we've been accurate. So very positive for people who actually know how to invest. And it's important to go back and forth, I think, because there's going to be a retracement at some point. You might as well take profits and kind of get into something physical, maybe a Rolex,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or,
I'm trying to get a Rolex, but I'm trying to find something that's gonna be worth it.
well,
Make me
Rolex is
money.
like a Porsche. It always goes up in value.
Ripple and the government administration of the United States of America. So we seen, I think, was it Chris Larson that donated 10 million to Kamala Harris? This was before President-elect Donald Trump. But
He donated from
Ripple,
his personal account, though.
yes. But
Right.
Ripple on a personal standpoint, continues to emphasize that they're pro-Trump. Sometimes I think, especially with the Donald Trump personality, where he takes things personal. So if you're like you're with me, you're not with me. Do you think that'll have an impact on how kind of Donald Trump reacts and acts towards Ripple apps, or do you think they're going to be kind of part of the government and
They
help
already are
facilitate?
part of the government. There are articles from 2019 about Ripple working with the Federal Reserve for FedNow payments and instant payments, and you call it whatever you want. But there are many articles. Vanilla and I have seen it in the past. Um, I don't know. There are a lot of people in the X community who have also revealed this. So they're already working with the government. I think a lot of what we see in the world today is theater. I've gotten to a point where I get it. It's all
Big
bullshit.
show.
It's a big show.
Yeah.
And these AI systems are actually thriving on people tweeting, scrolling, liking, sharing, but we're not doing anything about it. We're just kind of passing it around, and the AI is getting stronger because of this. AI is actually considered a new species. Did you know that? Hmm.
Wow.
Alien, if you will. So the AI is getting stronger. The people are getting dumber. The phones, I want to make a shirt. Actually, it's a phone and a person, and it says, "I'm with stupid." Get it?
Sign me up.
So yeah, you gotta be mindful that like the world is. I told people in a podcast months ago, like guys, things are about to get really, really weird, and I don't mean that from just surface level perspective. Like I'm talking a little further out there in the cloud. But the world is getting stranger. Technology is getting more advanced. People are still getting dumber. I really believe that. And I pray, I really do, that all this really changes. But I keep telling my friends, like, how the hell are you going to change the country if the people can't even change themselves? The change starts from within and it works its way outwards. See, government is just an aggregate of what the people are and who they are.
Yep.
And that's scary because the people are selfish, selfless. They have this materialism, consumerism, spending habits. I mean, this is all they care about, status, money. I mean, you have a lot of people that just care about their own situation. And I understand we shouldn't even be in foreign entanglements across the world, but there's no compassion. And that is the very basics, the foundation of what you're trying to talk about building. So don't give me that shit. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm.
People need to change, then the country can change. Then your leaders will
Yes.
change. You're going to have selfish, ignorant leaders in the White House if the American people are selfish, ignorant people, and they are. So I don't care who, you can cut this out if you'd like, but it's the truth. And people don't like the truth. So, I mean, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah. And like you said, is a government body is comprised of people. So it's kind of whatever that person is, his personality gets
It's
expanded
an
and
aggregate. Exactly.
yeah,
That's all governments ever were even. Um, like in 1913, when the central bank was put into place, private, we didn't have internet. We didn't have news outlets like we do today. But there were people out there in the past that, you know, they trusted in those IOUs. They gave their gold away. And when the central bank 1913 was put together, that's when America lost its freedom. And no one realizes it, on behalf of the Jesuit order. And then 1971, Nixon takes the dollar off the gold standard. Americans didn't do anything. So what we're seeing today in history is nothing's changed. In fact,
so
the only thing is technology. It's gotten stronger and it's dumbed down the population and they believe they're making a difference and they're not. So I don't know,
yeah,
man. I don't know how we're going to fix things in the world. I mean, what pisses me off more than anything, excuse my language, is the climate change people. They're like, we got to change the world, fix the world, heal the world. I mean, you can't even take care of each other and you're going to change the world. I mean, the arrogance is just, it's crazy, man.
so I kind of wanted we talked crypto, now I want to talk about XRP. So there's a lot of information, and like you said, talking about XRP and even the federal government, the FedNow payment system, XRP for oil, XRP tokenizing US bonds.
Stable
So
coins.
yes, and the new RLUSD. So
Well,
there's
it's
been a
not
lot of
just
discussion.
RLUSD. There are going to be multiple stable coins. A lot of stable coins are going to still be coming out, whether it's on the XRP ledger or the Stellar network, one or the other. You're going to see a lot of stable coins come and emerge from these two networks. And I think that's your reset, your monetary reset, if you will. They're going to be priced in gold. You're going to have stable coins for silver, backed by real assets. And this
Do
is
you
where
think
it's all
XRP
going.
like? Do you think XRP will be backed by gold? And will there be similar to what there was? There was a gold buyback. I remember there was a gold buyback. Forget the year. It was back in the day, like you said, when they switched from the gold to the US dollar standard.
Mm. Well,
There
when
was a gold buyback.
Roosevelt was in office, Teddy
Yes.
Roosevelt, they tried to confiscate the gold from the people, and they did. Now it's scary. We have technology. So if you're buying gold with a credit card, that's why I keep telling people don't go buy in cash so no one knows you own it. But yes, I do believe I've talked to a lot of experts. I think Jim Willie also is a good reference for this, but a lot of people who are way more informed at one point than I was have always said that XRP would be gold backed. The reason I came up with that, how I figured out that it might be gold backed at one point, or speculated, I'm sorry. It's because I saw all the central banks buying gold. I saw all the same central banks that were buying gold partner with Ripple to use XRP. Gold, XRP. What I'm trying to say is that there's a connection there. And then we can confirm from the World Gold Council that there's going to be at time 2021 an intersection between precious metals and stable coins. I have the video on my X. And the World Gold Council openly said there's not a company yet. This was 2021, by the way. We haven't found a company yet that can build a stable coin to replace the dollar with gold. Those were his words. Replace the dollar with gold, stablecoin, gold stablecoin, where banks, private entities, institutions can move it around the world. That sounds like a distributed ledger technology by a stablecoin issued by Ripple. That's gold backed. You see what I'm saying? And then we have the Bank for International Settlements. They reclassified gold to a tier one asset class, I believe 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Or 2017. I think it was 2019. That never made headlines, by the way, all across the world when it should have been on CNN and every major news outlet. So they already classified gold as a tier one asset class, which means, by the way, what does tier one mean? Zero risk. And now there are documents. I have them. I wish I could screen share if we had StreamYard. I would
I'll
show
show
them
them
to
on the
you right
screen.
now.
Yeah, I'll show them on the screen.
Well, okay, you can. Yeah. There are documents from the Bank for International Settlements openly discussing the use for stablecoins from Ripple and Stellar. My point, though, is that all these connections are like right in front of us, and we can interpret them the right way, or you can interpret them like everybody else, saying, no, that's not possible, without actually reading the documents. See, the problem is with a lot of these crypto outlets, and it sucks to say this, but it's the truth. First of all, they spell my name incorrectly when they write articles about me. How the hell are you writing an article if you can't even pronounce or spell my name correctly? It's on the website. It's on my YouTube channel. That's one. Two, they're getting paid like 50, 60 bucks to hype something, not knowing what the hell they're talking about. That's the truth. And I've read some of these articles written about me and other people in there, and they twist my words. They always do this stuff. So they're not giving people the full picture. They're not interpreting what I'm trying to say correctly. They're not interpreting what the documents are saying correctly. They're twisting them. And if you read the documents and interpret them the right way, you come to the same conclusion that there is a link between what XRP is and doing and something to do with gold. There's a relationship there. That has not been revealed yet. But for the last 5 years, Vindel and I and others in the space, I think the real guys like Digital Asset Investor, Brad Kimes, they were putting this stuff together a long time ago. And we've been proven right. Maybe a year later, maybe 2 years, but things are moving the way we described them they would because we're reading the documents. I don't think people are reading the documents. And going back to those headlines, the problem is a lot of people are writing these headlines and the headline sets the mood for the reader. So they don't need to even read the article, but the devil's in the detail. Vindel and I are doing this 24/7. I have new documents from 2015 even that emerged. Document from 2015. And I'll read it to you if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Let me pull it up, guys.
Sure.
Give me 1 second. I'm not kidding. I'll send it to you when we're done here. You're able to display it on this part when I'm reading it to you, okay? Feel free to. And I'm sorry, guys. This is taking a minute. Here we go. It's from 2015. Okay. So there's a few information in the paragraph in the beginning, but then this is what it says. Several large investment banks, including Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, and JP Morgan, recognize that this and are supplementing this their independent efforts by backing up the startup R3 Corda. You guys know R3 Corda.
Yes.
Aren't they trying to be acquired by somebody right now? Interesting. Well, it only makes sense that Ripple would acquire it because Ripple has already acquired a lot of the digital infrastructure for where this is all going. Anyways, with the intention of developing universal standards for blockchain and financial services, on the other hand, infrastructural players such as Swift, I have documents right now actually from Swift partnering with Ripple, integrating the technology, and Bolero, I don't know who the hell that is, may be better positioned to take advantage of this space owing to their position as third-party entities casting the net wider in financial services. Focused blockchain firms such as Ripple Labs will play major roles here. It's right there. And this was in 2015.
Ripple. Wow.
2015. You're going to get the document. I promise you guys. Yeah. It's on page 15. So you're welcome to share it. This is what I'm talking about. A lot of this stuff has been revealed in the past, and I think everything is being strategically released that is converging with pretty much the tension that we see in the geopolitical landscape, because what you see happening in China and Taiwan, what you see happening between Russia and the US, the BRICS nations, this is a currency war, a global currency war. And China has an agenda to pretty much eliminate the dollar as a reserve currency. The US has an opportunity to evolve the dollar and its digital influence throughout the world by stabilizing the bond market, by using something like Real USD, which is an issued stablecoin by Ripple, which uses XRP. It contributes to the value of XRP and what it is. So I see XRP being the ultimate digital store of value. I don't see Bitcoin being a store of value, and I don't care what people say. By definition, a store of value holds its value. When you see something like Bitcoin go from $60,000 and drop to 30 or 40, okay, I'm making numbers here, but it's happened many times. Not to mention its relationship with artificially inflating it through Tether. There's a revolving door over there, and the bond market. It would seem that they've been buying time. And it would seem that Ripple RLUSD is here now to stabilize things, which could be a lifeline to the dollar. So it could survive is what I'm saying. And that can tie us into the whole Jassara thing, whether we're not going to have a collapse. We're going to have this golden era, they say, where basically the dollar survives as a reserve currency, still has its influence. But there's another kicker to this. By having something like Real USD, a stable coin, and kind of unifying these currencies through a protocol, countries like Russia, countries like China could still de-dollarize, but it would take longer. Interesting, because what they could do is hold their reserves of dollars in RLUSD, which is a tokenized dollar anyways, and convert it into something else and get out. So slowly. It just takes longer, very slowly, right? It's very possible. So I'm telling you, I'm just interpreting the language that they're trying to tell us, and it's not that complicated to understand. It really isn't.
I mean, at this point in time, XRP and RLUSD solve basically the global wealth issue. Right?
It disrupted the financial system, and that's why they went after them. That's why the lawsuit even happened. They sued them because this is a disruptor. I mean, look at the history of the SEC. They go after anybody that disrupts the industry. Now, we've seen disruption in electric cars, which disrupted the auto industry. Netflix disrupted the film industry, movie industry, Hollywood, knocked them out of business, and exposed them at the same time to a degree. This is the biggest disruption, and that's why it's taking long. Somebody left a comment saying, yeah, man, I've been waiting 5, 6 years, da, 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 da. And I said, yeah, I understand. I said, replacing the functionality of a reserve currency like the dollar, which functions like it is the reserve currency, but functions like a cross-border settlements payment system because you need dollars to transact. I said, yeah, it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. So like I said, at a time of their choosing, when they're ready to reveal these facts, when they're ready to act, that's going to be at their choosing, not us. So it's not about retail again, like I said. So, what are you going to do, right? But look at
Yeah.
where we are from 5 years ago when you and I started talking. Do you remember where we were?
Right.
And look where we are today. We've been
Oh,
right.
everything we've called, everything that has been said, everything that has been called is basically close to or on point.
Exactly. And a lot of stuff still hasn't been revealed. And I think that's the ultimate one. Like recently, what did Ripple announce? Hey, we're about to be tokenizing gold on the XRP ledger. Who the hell said that years ago? I did.
Yep.
And I got attacked for it, by the way, by everybody in the community. And then when this information was revealed, they changed their tune. They pretended like they said it first.
Yeah, and
So
another big
funny.
point that you said, and this is I remember this was back in the day with the first discussion about the public ledger, private ledger. You're like, there is a private ledger, and institutions use it, and everybody's like, Versan doesn't know what he's talking about. And then suddenly you get David Shorts coming up on stage, and he's like, yes, there is a private ledger, and yes, it's for institutions, and yes, central banks are using it to go ahead and
Yeah,
just like
and my point, guys, is like for your audience here, I'm not trying to take credit for this. I don't give a crap. I don't want the attention. I just want people to listen and understand, right? That there's too much noise in the space and not enough perspective and insight. And that's why I have a very small circle. You know what I mean, right? I keep a very small circle in the community because nobody's offered real value yet. Maybe Patrick Riley and a few others, but we were thinking the same thing anyways.
gotcha. Now, in
Yeah,
terms of
it's not personal.
facil-
It's true.
facil- facilitating wealth in the United States through XRP, is that a thing? Globalized wealth for XRP being, in terms of XRP being a payment settlement platform. Will it facilitate the
It
global
should
wealth?
be.
Like,
It
can it?
should be. I think this is what a lot of the people in the XRP community are fighting for. The fact that not everybody maybe, but they're fighting for the fact that we should be able to use this as a currency, which is interesting because Arthur Brito said it had to be scalable for 7 point something billion. That's the global population, right? They took that off the website, by the way. They took it off the website saying it was going to be a reserve currency. That was actually on the website. Their goal was to be a reserve currency. They took it down, okay, when it started getting a lot of attention. Um, so it
I've
was
seen it.
supposed to be a
Mm.
currency. Yeah, it really was. I think it's very interesting how things have changed. And I had an interesting hedge fund manager, multimillionaire. He was on my show. I deleted the interview because we had some issues. And he said, we asked him about XRP. His name was Hugh Hendry. If you go to my Rumble account, you could find it there. It's still on there. And we asked him, what do you think about Ripple? And I remember he looked down and he kind of like touched his face a bit. He's like, yeah, he said, Ripple is very interesting. And he says, and I quote, the thing about Ripple is that they're going to have to give up a lot of the freedom that they wanted for it to be fully implemented into the system. But he said the value of Ripple is in its network. Well, interestingly, Ripple's network is global. It's everywhere. So that's the value of it, I guess. Whether it's going to be a currency where you and I can pay each other from, that's yet to be seen, you know? Who knows? The IMF is up to some very shady things. They always
Yeah,
have
and
been.
it's you know, as we talk about even
Hence the
everybody's
buyback.
talking market cap, yeah, and the buyback, but market cap, buyback, all that sort of stuff. I mean, they did. There was an article. This is even goes back to the Arthur Bridges thing because I remember I read it, and it was like Arthur Bridges says that XRP must be scalable to 7.5 billion people, and at that point in time, it was designed to be worth 10,000. Now that was taken, and then there was another tweet on top of it. It was a past data tweet to, I think it was David Short, and he was talking about how it doesn't make sense for XRP to be worth just $1 because it takes,
Yes.
if you have $1 and there's $1 million per house, it's not feasible. There's too much in transaction fees. It doesn't make any sense. XRP has to be worth a high price, and at that point, he compared it to Bitcoin. He said it has to be worth something between $10,000 or higher to be able to make sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. Stablecoins issued on the XRP ledger. I mean, it's really about disrupting again the traditional financial system, making XRP indeed, I think, extremely undervalued asset compared to what it should be. And of course, one could say it really is a true store of value. And if all nations begin holding their dollar reserves with RLUSD or other products out there, right? Other stable coins backed by physical assets. I mean, listen, you don't even have to think about it too much. But if other local currencies even are on the XRP ledger for stability and liquidity provision, then wouldn't the price have to be significantly higher for it to do what it needs to do? Wouldn't it? You see what I mean? Um, it's not hard to put this together. It really isn't.
Gotcha. And before we kind of end off this podcast, I want to talk a little bit about Versan himself. How did Versan get into crypto? How did Versan start his business? And how did Versan get to where he's at now?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. You know, this is a personal question, but my life was very hard growing up. I had a lot of challenges in my life, and I never gave up. But since I was a little boy, I was always an entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 13 years old, and I was in Saudi Arabia. And in the summer, I went with my grandfather to his barber shop. He owned one. And I'd go to every store. I did this by myself, by the way. And I'd say, let me clean your store with a broom for 2 reals. 2 reals, you know, is like $1. And they, you know, out of kindness, they all allowed it. So I would be for the whole summer cleaning their stores for 2 reals every day of summer. By the time summer was ended, I'd be the one telling all the girls to come to the candy store. Candy's on me, you know? I'm not even joking. And even my family and whatnot. So I've always had that spirit. And I remember I took one job once in my life when I was about 16 years old, and I quit the very same day because I realized how much time I'd be wasting. Anyways, so I went to college 3 times as well, dropped out of college 3 times just so I can get a damn education. You get a better education not being in college. You actually get indoctrinated. So my whole life, man, I've been working so hard to do something, right? I owned multiple businesses. I was in the hookah business. I owned 3 hookah businesses at nightclubs once. So I was in the entertainment industry for a while. I left there. I went into the phone business to become a little more professional. I didn't want the hours. Opened 2 phone stores, made a bunch of money, man. 2022, I realized the whole thing was dying. So I got out early. And anyways, I was also learning crypto in 2018. That's really when I finally like exposed myself to it, started studying Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. And it took us about a week in 2018 for my brother, while I was still running my businesses, to kind of figure out that this is the once in a lifetime opportunity to become very wealthy. So gradually got out of the business, and yeah, man, just always been independent. Um, I started my first business, you know, second business actually, by borrowing $1,000 from my girlfriend once, and I gave it back to her that next weekend with interest on top of that. So, you know, I just never gave up, man. I worked my ass off. I really do, guys. And now I'm 24/7 researching, reporting, doing consulting sessions. I already am 4 minutes late for my other one, but it's okay. So yeah, just, you know, I like to be independent. And I encourage everyone else out there to do the same thing. You're better off working for yourself, doing what you love. And this is really my calling, just education. I'm teaching a class in Vietnam, actually, on December the 13th. I'm going to be talking to about 175 students in Vietnam and teaching them about blockchain. Of course, it's going to be um, professionally done in a different setting because these are college students. So it's just, yeah, you got to keep growing, man. Don't give up. And of course, making money is something I'm really good at now more than ever. So anyone wants to learn more, please get in touch with me at Black Swan Capitalist. I'm happy to help, and I'm here to teach and offer insights and perspective. And I can, of course, share some information that confirms what I've been saying here.
All right, well, perfect. Thank you so much, Versan, for coming on. I'm sorry for making you late, but this was a fantastic time speaking
No,
with
it's
you, and we'll
okay.
definitely keep in touch, guys. And there'll be a lot more. So thank you for your time, Versan. We'll keep in
Thank you,
touch,
guys.
and
I appreciate it. It was a pleasure. Thanks.
our pleasure. Take care.